So I want to show this short clip to you guys. This is Meet the Press, NBC News, and they brought on JD Vance, Trump's VP, to discuss about how they're trying to frame, Trump announced at a rally that he was going to have special prosecutors to investigate the Biden family crimes. Obviously, Hunter Biden's laptop, their business dealings in Ukraine. We discussed at length about this. Trump said this in a rally and it infuriated the media because the fact that now, oh, well, Trump is weaponizing the Justice Department to go after his political opponents, even though we have known that Joe Biden has done this to Donald Trump since Donald Trump. The Democrats have been doing this since Donald Trump started politics. The Democrats have been doing this since 2016 to weaponize every active force in government and media to attack Donald Trump. They've been storming his house. They've been trumping up charges against him. They've been trying to prosecute him, trying to impeach him, trying to step him down, trying everything. And then they now circle around because Donald Trump spoke at a rally saying, hey, maybe if I get elected, I might put a investigator to look into Biden's crimes. And they should. They should. There should be investigation of all political dynasties. Because we know that there's corrupt crimes within the Clinton family, within the Bushes, within the Obamas, with Biden. And even if there is stuff with Trump, why is it only Trump? Why is it only Trump that he is the ultimate criminal, but no one else can be? Anyway, watch this video of how Kristen Welker is about to twist the wording around to try to scold JD Vance for allowing Donald Trump to mention this at a rally. Like, listen how crazy this is.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to talk to you about the immunity ruling and the implications. This is what Donald Trump said last year about wanting to target his political opponents. Take a listen.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family.
Senator, if former President Trump were to win, if you were to be his vice president, would you support him appointing a special prosecutor to go after his political enemies, the Bidens?
So they framed it in a way. This is classic dystopian corporate media 101. They framed this in a way. They even showed the clip there where Trump was saying, there's a possibility I might have an investigator, a prosecutor look into the Biden crime family. And they're saying this as, oh, well, you're going to support a guy that's weaponizing their opponents? As opposed to the current president, the current administration, that's done nothing but weaponize their opponents. They went after Trump. They went after RFK Jr. They went after third parties. They're going after people that were in the Democratic ticket to challenge Joe Biden. They went out and anyway. Let's hear JD's response here. And the amazing part is the only thing the Democrats have to retaliate against JD Vance is calling him weird. Like, you could say a lot about this guy. And his dealings in corruption and his support for Israel and the genocide. There's a lot to be said about this guy, but all they can come up with is he's weird, which that's not even an attack. Like, I was called weird. You're weird. We're all weird. Everybody's a weird person. Like, we haven't figured out normality in so many years. Like, what is a normal person? Everybody's weird. That's such a stupid, ridiculous try to slam for JD Vance. But anyway.
Well, first of all, Kristen, I find it interesting how much the media and the Democrats have lost their mind over this particular quote. Donald Trump is talking about appointing a special prosecutor to investigate Joe Biden for wrongdoing. Joe Biden has done exactly that for the last few years and has done far more in addition to that. to engage in a campaign of lawfare against his political opposition. I think what Donald Trump is simply saying is we ought to investigate the prior administration. There are obviously many instances of wrongdoing. The House Oversight Committee has identified a number of corrupt business transactions that may or may not be criminal. Of course, you have to investigate to find out. So I think Donald Trump saying, look, let's do the basic work of investigating wrongdoing is a totally reasonable thing for him to do. And frankly, the Biden administration has done far worse. So if you think that what Donald...
And mind you, the media is freaking out about just investigating Biden's crimes. It's not to say that Trump is actually going to arrest Joe Biden, because let's face it, he's not going to do it. I know for a fact he's not going to do it. All those chants of, locking up Clinton, that was all just for show. That was all theater. He's never actually going to lock up criminals because he is part of that cabal. He is part of that group. He is part of that gang. And if you want to stay in that gang, you want to stay within the higher ups, you play to them, you cater to them, and you screw over working class people. That's why Donald Trump, when he ran as this kind of populist back in 2015, 2016, as soon as he got elected, as soon as he got into the White House, he pandered a bit more to the establishment. And why I find it so laughable that he is the most hated president in this lifetime, even though he was the one that sided the most with the establishment. I think the only thing that was probably the most controversial was he was trying to, well, first he announced that, we had troops in Syria to guard the oil. That was like, my God, how dare you do that? But he was also trying to stop the flow of weapons into Ukraine. He was trying to diminish the possibility of war between Ukraine and Russia. And they impeached him for that. They impeached him because he stepped out of the military-industrial complex and critically analyzed what they were doing and said, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to, get myself into another world war. And he also shook hands with adversaries to try to negotiate a peace deal. But other than that, like, he gave the establishment tax breaks. He ended up throwing missiles into Syria. Brian Williams, creamed his pants, saying how wonderful it is that we're attacking another country. So it's the most laughable thing that they hate Trump so much, even though Trump was their best friend for so many years. Anyway,
Donald Trump is proposing is a threat to democracy. Isn't what Biden has already done a massive threat to our system of law and government?
Senator, just to be very clear, though, Joe Biden didn't appoint a special prosecutor. The attorney general did that. Trump was indicted by grand juries. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers in New York. But can we just go back to the core question here? Would you support him taking such?
So she's saying that, no, Biden didn't have capabilities of it. It was the attorney general. And I think she's trying to refer to New York, which is, I think that's the Stormy Daniels case. Is that Stormy Daniels, or is that another one I'm thinking of? Because there was that one, and there was also the Georgia one, which he had to go to Georgia. Either way, Biden has approval over this. Biden has oversight over the attorney general. He could have easily revoked this. Could have easily done something about this. He just let it happen. And not to mention that Joe Biden raided Mar-a-Lago. He raided the private home of a former president in order to catch some dirty deeds, apparently, at his private estate when it came to the classified documents, which, again, if you're president, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to classify and declassify whatever the hell you want. That is part of the job. You have the ultimate say. You are the top dog. But that's not the case, because who really runs the country? It's the military-industrial complex. It's the intelligence agencies. It's the deep state that dictates over everything, including what a president can and can't do. And this is not, this is not Joe Biden per se doing this, but this is his deep state counteracting on the fact that Donald Trump is that wrench that's clogging up the systems of the status quo. Because now they had to, oh my God, they had to wait till 2022 and get Joe Biden elected to finally get Ukraine into a war with Russia. We could have had that done in 2016 if we voted for Clinton, but now we had this game show host that everybody was like, anyway.
In action, it sounds like you're saying, yes, you would.
I would absolutely support investigating prior wrongdoing by our government. Absolutely. That's what you have to have in a system of law and order, Kristen. But I have to reject the premise here. Joe Biden appointed the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who, of course, answers to Joe Biden, can be fired by Joe Biden. So the idea that the Biden administration has nothing to do with the appointment of the special prosecutor, I think, completely betrays a misunderstanding of how our system of government actually works. And of course, Kristen, we have to make this point, Kristen, that the prosecution of Donald Trump in New York, which I think now is fundamentally been thrown in doubt by this immunity case, it was one of the main guys was a Department of Justice official in the Biden administration who jumped ship to join a local prosecutor's office to go after Donald Trump.
And yet the DOJ told
doesn't make you question the legitimacy of the prosecution. That's a problem.
Well, Senator, that happens all the time. People are appointed from Washington, but the DOJ told Congress, testified this week
Kristen,
that it reviewed
it happens.
Hold on, Senator.
Are you really saying, Kristen?
Senator, let me finish my sentence.
Let me finish. I'm speaking. Now she's throwing the Kamala Harris. I'm speaking. Stop saying things. I'm speaking. Let me squash all that so that my viewers at home feel comfort in the fact that this whole scam is beneficial to them. That cost billions of dollars, by the way. All the Trump trials and the show and getting all this, it's costing your tax dollars. This is why fundamentally America is so broke, because they come up with these charades that cost billions of dollars to pander to you guys, to pander the circus in front of your face. Meanwhile, they are screwing you 9 ways to Sunday on economics, on infrastructure, on wars, on everything else. And your tax dollars are paying for all of this, and you don't get a goddamn say in any of it. So now Kristen Welker of Meet the Press has to stop JD Vance and confide to people, make them feel comfortable. Hey, be complicit. Be complicit. It happens all the time.
Hold on.
The number.
Let me just finish this. The DOJ told Congress this week it reviewed all communications since Biden took office and found no contact between federal prosecutors and those involved with that case in New York. Can you stick to the substance of the question, though? Let me just ask, because I just want to stick with this line of theory that you are laying out, which is you are saying it's not okay for Joe Biden to weaponize the Justice Department. If it's not okay for Joe Biden to weaponize the Justice Department, as you say, which there's no evidence of that, why is it okay for Donald Trump to do that?
Because to follow up on that question, Joe Biden weaponized the justice system first. Joe Biden, and not just Joe Biden, but Hillary Clinton back in the day, already did that. They were the ones that provoked Donald Trump to weaponize the Justice Department to go after them. They are the ones that started this fight. They are the ones that fabricated stories, attacked him, smeared him, diminished his campaign. Let's not forget the reason we have Donald Trump in the first place is because Hillary Clinton advised him to run. Hillary Clinton advised Donald Trump to run in a Piper strategy to try to build this guy up so that she could out-champion him. And guess what happened? The people gambled with the game show us because they saw right through the Clinton psychotic psychopath that she is. They were the ones that provoked it. They're the ones that poked the bear. And Donald Trump is just retaliating. Donald Trump is defending himself by saying that we need to investigate the Clintons. We need to investigate the Bidens. We need to investigate the entire electoral process and the criminality that these psychotic psychopaths are in control of. So the fact that she is posing that question, like, it's how do you just not sit there and not think for a second that after witnessing everything that Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton did to Donald Trump, but again, this is the Trump derangement syndrome, because if Trump does it, he's a villain. Everything that Trump does is villainous. But anyone within the establishment does the exact same thing and did before Trump even thought about it, is okay. It happens all the time.
Well, Kristen, first of all, you said that it happens all the time, that the number 3 person in the Department of Justice jumps ship to join a local prosecutor's office to go after the president's political opponent. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of American democracy, and I don't think that we should legitimize it. Now, if Donald Trump's attorney general had his number 2 or his number 3 jump ship to a local prosecutor's office in Ohio or Wisconsin, and that person then went after Donald Trump's political opposition, that's a different conversation.
Senator,
all he's suggesting is that we should investigate credible arguments of wrongdoing. That's all that Donald Trump is saying. That is not a threat to democracy. That's merely reinforcing our system of law and government.
Bottom line, you are okay with Donald Trump appointing a special prosecutor to go after his political enemies, which would include Joe Biden. You're just, to button that up, it sounds like you're...
So to button it up, you're siding with the guy that's going after his political enemies, because Donald Trump is so evil. I have such derangement syndrome against him. I just want to clarify that you are siding with him, even though you've just spent the last few minutes or so explaining that your outrage doesn't even matter at this point. It's just, I mean, the fact that NBC News, I mean, this is how they frame stuff like this. Again, it's the part of the whole Trump derangement syndrome. This is the same guy who had the hit reality series on their network for many, many years. This is the guy who they brought onto talk shows and they loved him. Howard Stern loved him. The View loved him. He was invited to Regis and Kelly back in the day. He was invited to all these different late night shows. He hosted Saturday Night Live. But now, because Donald Trump is that clog within the machine of the oligarchy, he's that cancer sore, that cold sore that exposes all of the hideous, disgusting rhetoric and retaliation that the oligarchy is using to epitomize us. Because of all that, anything that Trump is doing is directly evil. Anything. He could be saving a puppy from a tree, and they'll still say, well, there's got to be some sort of narrative to this. But Joe Biden does the same thing. Joe Biden's hailed a hero. And it's because they will push, no matter who it is, whether it's Democrat or Republican, it doesn't even matter. Like, even when they were covering the RNC, they were trying to push so much of Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Why? Because they are two clowns for the establishment. They're going to push war narratives. They're going to do whatever it takes. They were more friendly to them than they were to Donald Trump for obvious reasons. And the fact that this is getting such hypocrisy, such hype in the media, that, oh my God, Donald Trump is bothering to maybe do an investigation on the Biden crime family, all of Hunter Biden's crimes, the laptop, just even having a discussion about it is so heinous to them that they have to bring on JD Vance to say, are you, can you believe this? Are you siding with this? But how can you do that? How can you do that? We were the ones that do it for many, many years, but how can you do this? How can you do this to our buddy Joe? How can you do this? Shame on you. And this is all they have. This is all they have between this and calling JD Vance weird. Like I said, everyone's weird. That goes to show, like, the whole entire oligarchical establishment is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And if anyone steps out of line, even someone that they have adored for so many years, brought up by the establishment, brought to his fame and glory through the establishment, even that, if you step an inch offline or off cue, you will be hit harshly by attacks, by smears, by uh, crime, by charges. Like, it is just absolutely horrendous what this is. And I'm no fan of the Trumpster myself. I've said this so many times before, and I have to keep reiterating this because I know there's trolls out there that say, "Well, you're supportive of Trump, then you're a Trumper, you're a MAGA person." Hilarious because I'm Canadian, so it doesn't even matter who I support when it comes to the American election. But I am saying this on the behalf of a principled person who understands about the law, who understands how all this is for show, how we're being weaponized in a general sense. So Trump saying that he wants to investigate the Biden family, just have a conversation and actually expose the horrendousness of the Biden crime family, I say go with it. Go for it. And I say don't even stop there. We should have investigations on every single political dynasty. In fact, I'd say 99.9% of politicians that get into office, and I'm even throwing JD Vance into this, have some sort of dark skeletons in their closets. Because otherwise, how would they get into politics? How would they get into positions of power that they're in right now if you don't, do some money transfers here and there and be, manipulated by APEC or do criminality throughout your career? Like, how do you survive without doing some sort of criminal activity to being the top tier people in politics, especially with this hideous garbage system that is just horrendous to everybody else. And they're trying to use this. It's just hilarious.